I don't know. She still hasn't gone through that gate. Have you guys gone through the gate? Welcome in, gatekeepers. Hello, are you kidding me? Vixen Doe, Ted. Hey, everybody. I think I saw Lindsay in here. Did I see Lindsay? Hello to Sapphire, Uncommon Belief. Welcome in, welcome in. So tonight, without further ado, I'm going to bring in my friend here. I think we're gonna have fun talking about this tonight because there's really no end to the subject here. As we keep on building all these developments and things like that, one of my favorite things to hear is someone says, "Well, it's a brand new house. How can it be haunted?" I don't know, Steve Stockton. How could it possibly be haunted? Hello, honey. Surprise! You're muted. Muted.
Hey, how you doing? Well,
There
as
you
they
go.
said in Pet Cemetery, the land is soured.
There
You
you
don't know
go.
what's gone on there. Decades, maybe hundreds of years before. I run into that a lot here in New England. There's stuff pre-Revolutionary wartime stuff where all kinds of horrible, horrible things would happen.
Guarantee your house is
Yeah,
on Indian burial ground.
you can build a brand new house and it must be haunted AF. Uh, that this story that we're going to be talking about tonight, it reminds me of the movie Poltergeist. There's a lot of parallels there.
That's it right there. And that's one thing before we even get started, I got to correct myself. When I was talking about this, and before I started kind of getting into the research of it about 2 weeks ago, I guess, I started thinking, man, this, because I thought it was around the same time. And I thought this might have very well have been the case that spawned the idea for Poltergeist. And then I looked at Poltergeist. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Because Poltergeist came out in 82, and this was just kind of getting started. Like one of the first houses there was in 80, and then 81, the Haneys, I think, moved in. And it's all in that one corner. So we'll get to it. But basically, to be honest, I got to correct myself, say, no, it's not. It couldn't have been because this was still going on. And Poltergeist was already playing in the theaters, which opened my mind to a whole nother thing, Steve. It's like these poor people are going through this shit and playing in your local theater is,
a movie.
It's Poltergeist.
People about are going the exact to see it for entertainment. They're living it.
How insane is that?
Like Pee Wee Herman said, I don't have to see it, Dottie. I lived it.
That just absolutely blew my mind because these people who moved in to this little town, and I've got a little clip of it. I don't have any a big elaborate video on it because everything, it's either the Unsolved Mysteries or the movie Grave Secrets, and we'll talk all about that. And you can see them. I just can't play them for you. So,
it's free here on YouTube, I believe, the entire movie.
Both of them.
Vixen Doe, how you doing? I sent a book to you today. You should get it. I think they said
there you go. People getting books. Yeah. So before we get started on all that, though, I wanted to say that first of all, I was wrong. It couldn't have been because of the timing. But how odd is that now that there's so damn many cases like this that supposedly Poltergeist was based on one out of Long Island. So there's Long Island again. You got Amityville, Long Island. You got, the doggone shark, but that was made up. Not really, but not in that spot. The story about it being in Amityville, it ran in Long Island was made
it actually came up in freshwater, didn't it? Came up a creek or a river.
Well, yeah. It went all along the coast, and then it came up the Manalocan River or whatever. We did that episode on it. So pictures of it
in New Jersey, yeah.
And brought to you by unsolicited Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
The coffee of the podcast. It's coffee that tastes like coffee.
Yep, a real actual coffee. And they've got their holiday flavors out now. They've got peppermint mocha, which is excellent. They've got one they call cookie butter, which
isn't coffee.
They had to flip it around. And tonight I'm enjoying white chocolate. It's white chocolate with a marshmallow aftertaste. That's really, really good stuff.
Never even seen a coffee bean.
Unsolicited endorsement. But if the kind folks at Dunkin' are watching and they want to hook me up with free coffee for life, I will talk about them on every show I'm on.
Or what's this one? It doesn't have a tea bag. Well, it's a tea bag, but it doesn't have a tag. But it's Celestial Seasonings, Peach Orchard, double shot.
Any of those Celestial, Red Zinger, Sleepy Time, Morning Thunder. Any of
Morning
that
Thunder.
special seasonings is good stuff.
I think I dated him in high school. Never mind.
Morning Thunder.
Anyhow, Morning Thunder. I know a lot of people named weird names. Native Americans, we've got some cool names, But I've known a few, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, it kind of blew my mind that there were so many cases like this that are actually developments built on what they find as a burial ground. There was another one, I believe it was the sightings or an Unsolved Mysteries, where it was, again, a whole neighborhood, Steve. And it was a bunch of, they were a little bit younger. It was more modern time. So it was a little bit more like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was actual Indian burial ground, because they dug up the street and found all kind of artifacts and stuff. So they had to halt everything. So they've got this great big opening in the street, and 3 or 4 or 5 houses there were getting all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But they were seeing Native American
ghosts. And it
ghosts.
doesn't have to be a house. So I'll have you recall Yanni Johnson from the Toys R Us in Simi Valley, California.
So true.
It'd been a farm there before. The guy, whatever happened to him, and he was out hanging around in the back rooms at Toys R Us, and they got a picture of him.
Yep. Oh yeah, a couple of them. But yeah, that was something else. That's just it. I was blown away at how many different actual cases there are like this. We tend to bleed them all together. So, usually when I do a case like this, whether it's Abraham Lincoln or you name it, Chicago Fair, I don't care what it is, I turn it inside out and upside down. So this one, it's quite amazing. But I figured tonight, instead of tearing it all inside out and upside down, my main point is what it usually is. It's, first of all, fact, what was made up, what was fact from the people, from the eyewitnesses, what makes sense, what caused it, and who was doing it. Who's doing this thing. So my big thing is, Bob died in a tractor accident in the backfield. So it's him coming in the back door. It's him slamming the cabinets. It's him. He's the shadows I see on the wall. He's mad about something. Has nothing to do with him. He crossed. This is something new. This is something different. And you're blaming everything on this poor guy. You know what I mean? I don't like that. That's one of my big things. It's like, let's sort it out and see what it is. So I got to talk to fantastic Katie Turner last night. And Stephanie Getz also says, hey, I got to meet her and some other people this week. It's been a great week. It's just been energies like off the charts right now for light workers. I'm telling you, you guys got to be feeling it. Hey, Catherine, how you doing, sweetie? Welcome in. So I have on the great, fantastic Katie Turner. Katie Turner's been on Paranormal Survivor. Her whole team, I think, was going through most of the seasons of Paranormal Survivor, and she's just fantastic. So mediums and psychics always get a bad thing, because it's like having somebody over. You invite them. Say you cut hair, Steve. You invited me to dinner, and the next thing I know, I got hot dogs and baked beans, and I'm cutting everybody in the household's hair in the kitchen. Do you know what I mean, though?
I've been to a couple of dinner parties like that.
I mean, that's great if that's the deal. Feed me and I'll cut
the hot dogs left with the haircut.
That's different if it's agreed to ahead of time. But because light workers
surprise
and stuff,
haircut.
Yeah, surprise haircut. Guess what? He said, "Hey, did you bring your scissors?" That kind of thing. I thought you just wanted to see me. That kind of. So, hey, get spooky. Welcome in. So the thing is, if I have a friend on and I've invited him in for a chat, I'm not going to tell him to work. If you have abilities, if you're a tarot card reader, if you're a medium, whatever, and you say, hey, this is my gig, this is what I do, I'm going to come on your show, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then, hey, I'd like to do a couple mini readings. That's wonderful. That's what that person is choosing to do. I just know that light workers right now are having a really heavy load, and the last thing I'm going to do is invite a guest in here and go, hey, did you bring your scissors? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
I've had that happen.
I don't do that.
Back when I used to do stand-up comedy back in the 80s, I'd mention that to somebody. Oh, tell us a joke.
Yeah.
Or before that, I was a magician. I did kids parties. Oh, show us a magic trick.
Show us some magic
tricks. I started carrying something around in my pocket that I could pull out and, flash paper.
You're the dessert entertainment.
Yeah.
And again, that's fine and dandy if that's something you like to do. I mean, you'd almost be hurt if you wanted to do it. Nobody asked you to. Yeah. I mean, it can go either way. So the thing
Yeah.
is I'm real upfront with it. And I'll say, hey, I'd love to have you on to have a conversation because I've wanted to talk to you for about 7 years now. And I finally get you, for a couple hours. I'm going to be selfish. I told the chat, I said, look, mods, you've got this chat because you know me, Steve. If I'm looking at the chat and I'm reading the chat, I can't even hear you talking anymore once I'm getting into because it's just this thing I have. So
It happens.
I can't look because I don't want a guest to think that I'm ignoring them. And I'm going,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was reading the
Yeah.
chat. Can you repeat
The
that?
other day, I was trying to say hi to the chat, and I was reading something at the same time,
You
trying to
got lost.
multitask, and I called D-Rock baby. D-Rock, hey, baby. I was going to call
Hey,
him
baby.
buddy, but I was reading something. Hey,
I know.
baby.
It's really weird the way that
Nicole got a
happens.
big laugh out of that.
I'm getting better at it, but I knew last night I wanted to hinge on every word she said because I had so many things to ask her because we're talking about Mandela effect, time slips. We're talking about that next level stuff where I'm like in Candyland. I'm just, it's like I got a $5 bill and, I'm lost in, go get whatever you want, And I'm one of those people. I'm gonna get 2 bubble gums, 2 root beer barrels. I'm gonna get 3 Mary Janes. I'm not gonna go in and buy $5 worth of Jolly Ranchers. That's not me. I got to have a little everything. So I had to ask her. Yeah. So I had questions like crazy for Miss Katie Turner, and it was absolutely a wonderful time. She could only stay for a little bit, and I was so glad to have her. And so I just wanted to apologize to chat and also thank mods for doing such a wonderful job last night. I know there was a few people in here that popped in that I didn't recognize that came in to get readings, and they were disappointed that they weren't she wasn't doing readings. But I'll tell you right now, Katie Turner, psychic.com. Go in there. She deserves for you to make a schedule with her because the energy, if you know anything about this subject, the energy is so off the chain right now that it's really best that if you really want a reading, to be able to be in an environment where you're focused, unless you have someone that says, hey, I'm fine, I can work with this, all this energy going zippity doo all over the place. But and she might come in and do that later on. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but for the next couple times she's on, we're going to just be picking her brain and running through cases with her and to see if we're even close to being anywhere near the bullseye on some of these things, Steve, because she's somebody that can I feel can really answer those questions, and she did so last night. It was a wonderful time. So thank you if you were here, and I appreciate you mods if you were in here, mod. And I know Ted, you were trying to hang on there, and so was Lindsay. And has anyone seen Aunt Edna? Is she doing okay? Can we send love her way? I
haven't seen her. I think she was here last week, I want to say. Now, she's usually over at
I was
when they have premiere, but I didn't make it over there last night. I went to bed early.
That's 100% correct. I was like sitting on Santa Claus's lap, to a 6-year-old kid that wanted, I was like, oh my God. And I had to stay focused. And I come over here and I see these people all printing it, and I'm squinting down like this, and I'm trying to like, what's going on there? And I'm like, the mods will make them some cupcakes. They're gonna, So it's nice to have a family and a live chat like that who understands all that stuff and help me out. And I appreciate that because it was fantastic. I had a great time, and every time I asked her something, I said, I'm thinking this. And she went, yep. This is this. And we talk. She's again, one of those that has finally understood that Bigfoot's an elemental, part supernatural, in and out and we talked about the frequencies and all the pictures where I think they do that at will, Steve. I think they do it at will. They know.
That's what comedian Mitch Hedberg said, that there isn't a clear picture of Bigfoot because Bigfoot himself is blurry. And so if you take a picture of Bigfoot, it's going to be blurry. And that kind of makes sense.
He didn't know how right he was.
At a different frequency. Good old Mitch. Rest in peace, buddy. Met him years and years ago. He's a great guy.
Did you? God bless him. That always broke my heart. I can remember when he came out with one of his stand-up CDs, and one of my sons got a hold of it, and I started to listen to it. It was funny. He's a funny guy, but you could also tell he was like one of those Robin Williams, like
a lot of the comedians. When I was doing that, I did the Funny Bone Comedy Club circuit, like Nashville, Louisville, Kentucky, Knoxville, Atlanta, and a lot of times we would stay at the club owner's house they'll sleep on the couch or whatever. But those were some of the saddest, most melancholy people that you ever met. They wanted to make people laugh because they were hurting, and a lot of them carry that around with them. I mean, you think of all the
to
Robin
hide
Williams,
it as
John
well.
Belushi, Chris Farley, John Candy. A lot of them just had miserable
one
lives.
after the damn other. One after the damn other, But this is Stephanie Getz, and I'll tell you what. So the other night, listen to this, fans. So I'm sitting there, and usually going to sleep, I'll spend an hour researching future shows, and because again, this takes time sometimes, especially if I'm doing a Lizzie Borden or Melissa, or gosh, I'll be knee deep in that 3 months. Reading books like crazy and everything else. So.
Melissa Axe Murders. That's all I got to say to that. And we did 4 episodes, like 2 or 3 hours each. 3 episodes,
3
and then
hours.
a question and answer session with the good doctor. How's he doing? Have you heard from him lately?
I hadn't heard a word. I thought about reaching out to him a couple of days ago.
Dr. Eberly, I believe was his name.
Epperly, yeah. So and it was hard for us to even imagine look to be tired, because he's he was pushing 90 and outrunning us both.
He was just
running circles around both of us.
I had a dream that he willed that axe to you, and that you had it in a glass display case.
Oh, I wouldn't have it anywhere near my house. As soon as it said it was on the way, I'd said, let's just forward that to Steve Stockton. Thank you very much. And
I'd pass it on too. I'd raffle it off or something.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going. I was getting ready to settle down. I thought I'd research out some stuff, and I said, man, I need to get a nice holiday show. I said, I want something different, a little something cool, something put a lot of light and love out there, help people, me through Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm trying to put stuff out there like animal communicators. I'll get Rob Guttrow on, so your pets are doing great for the holidays, and your loved ones are doing great for the holidays. And it's just some way to put light back out into the universe, So I said, hook me up with somebody. I told my spirit guides, hook me up with something new. And I flipped 3 things in YouTube. And all of a sudden, this thing popped up. I wasn't subscribed. I had not, heard. And it came up, and it was Get Spooky. And there were 2 lovely ladies on there. And they were doing their thing. And one was pulling cards, and one was doing crystals and kind of reading, more of a medium thing where the spirits, and she's pulling up visuals and thoughts, and probably conversation as well, because they're both spot on. But anyhow, here they are. Never seen them. And as soon as the light off of these 2 wonderful souls was breathtaking. And I could just feel the energy. I'm like, I'm here for the duration. I'm going to watch this through. So I connected in, and I said, please, if you can, come on. You will love our chat. You will love our people. You will love this. Please come on. And they're going to come on for December. So I'm thrilled with that. But again, that's all spirit driven. They're the ones that hooked me up. And guess who came through? Sure enough, I got on the list. I said, sure, why not? And guess who came through? Mr. Dickens. And the first thing he said basically was,
meow.
Yeah, but how damn smart that cat is.
Yeah.
And it was just, his energy was like, and he was just not holding back. I mean, he was talking global stuff and universal things and metaphysics. And he said that,
just like a cat to show off like that.
And I'm surprised he didn't show up his top hat. But he was tell them how I research and how I'm, good at it. And I'm always, I'm in it, and that's me. And they were absolutely spot on in like 2-3 minutes. It's amazing what people can do, especially light workers, especially when you're doing it in love and you're putting it out there in great energy. So the spirits found them for you guys. So I'll be bringing them, and you can subscribe to their channels and connect into that anytime you want, because I'm telling you, you guys we need all the tools into the light we can get our hands on. And these are wonderful, wonderful spiritual light workers. So there you go. And again, thank you for that reading. I really needed to hear it. He's something else, isn't he? He's everybody in this chat knows Mr. Dickens McGee. They're all familiar. He's gone around to a lot of our artisans and spent time with them to have them work on little surprises for me and stuff. I mean, he jumps around and comes to visit all kinds of people. Still,
I think
it's been a year.
you said it in a different context, but I think he is your familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he picked me, and that's just the way it is in the Native community. I'll open the door and there'll be a cat, or it's like, hi, where'd you come from?
Hello, here's my luggage. Where did I
Yeah.
sleep?
Yes.
What's for dinner?
Exactly. Every time, but of course I do that to a Bigfoot too, so whatever. I mean, I've literally had that happen. I laugh, but that kind of stuff has happened. So there you go. So this story about tonight, and again, my main objective here is to let's talk a little bit about the facts, a little bit about what happened. And then my main thing here is to sort it, because just like Lincoln, they're saying this and people made up stuff and they keep saying it. So we think it's fact, but it isn't. In this case, it's not that the haunting did or didn't happen. It's about what caused it and who was doing it is my focus. And it's kind of like that one story, Steve, with the old man where, he was setting things on fire and making the wallpaper breathe and all that kind of like demonic looking stuff. And it was just some little old man.
He was like, hey, look what I can do.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
Lonely, just wanted some attention and wanted some company. And he thought, oh, I'll get your attention this way.
Right. And also the things where, a lot of these internet, whether it's Reddit or a Substack or, whatever it could be, whatever blog, some of them are absolutely fantastic. I'm absolutely amazed most of the time when I go in, hey, Travis, welcome in, baby.
Do you have a Substack?
Me, myself, no.
Yeah,
I've got enough.
I've got one.
Going
I'd like to drop a link in the chat if you'd let me.
Drop whatever link you want. Link sausage. I don't care what you want to put. Steve, my chat's your chat. So, I don't know how to say that and make it sound sexy like in another language. Just, my chat's your chat. So I was trying to think of an equivalent to me casa su casa, but
yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Chato as su chato. I don't know. But that was awful, wasn't it? I could probably get locked up for saying that. That's kind of where we're in right now. Okay, so the thing that blows my mind again, like I say, is how many. Now, common sense will tell you that over time, houses are going to be built on graveyards, especially Native American graveyards. I mean, we hear it all the time, Native American burial ground. And they blamed it so many times on, on that. But does the haunting match that? I can see the one I had mentioned where it was the whole neighborhood and it was like 5 or 6 houses on the cul-de-sac that were all seeing a Native American in their bathroom mirror, or one standing in the bedroom or looking in the window and all these kind of things. Then I can say it was definitely them or ancestors or something trying to get the attention, whatever. And I think it's possible the Bothell Hell House, Steve. Yep. There might be something going on there along.
How is Keith? Have you heard anything from him lately? I know he wrote a book or two, and he was making the circuits, but I haven't
a couple days ago. We have to get him back on. We got to get him back on.
Yeah,
we do. There's developments. Yeah, there's definitely developments and updates. So I think there was something going on there, but I think in that case it was a combination of Native American and Scottish or Irish, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't there something where there had been an immigrant burial ground there? Yeah, from early on. And that was a small town that was, but there was something like that, because when they went outside in his backyard and down in that ditch for all those EVPs, remember when the paranormal group came over from the UK and they were like on it, and they went back there. They got all those EVPs with Scottish accents and stuff, and that fit. All that fit. See, that's matching a haunting to the cause. That's matching a haunting. That's not going willy-nilly off to the thing and just saying the whole thing is a demon's doing all of this. No, it was multiple different things. And that's what I think is kind of going on in this case. So I did a little video. It's got a little bit of information on it, just a couple pictures, but just to give you a baseline idea of what we're talking about, there was an Unsolved Mysteries. Let me see if I've got the right. that one's different. Hang on one second while I look this up real quick. It was Unsolved Mysteries. If I show the picture, you'll remember. But an added confusing little thing goes with this. Okay, if I stop on it, it's going to play, and I don't want it to play. Hold 1 second, guys.
No, while you're doing that, I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. It's
Please
little
do.
here in the StreamYard, and I can't see it without squinting, even with these reading
Can you
glasses.
see?
So hi to everybody in the chat. I can pop over to the YouTube site. I can see it over there. But
how hard is it?
Hi, everybody. I'm not trying to snub your ghost judges. I can't see. I've said hi to a few people. But hi to everybody. Good to see you.
Sometimes I'll get this stuff pushed back too far. But anyway, I can't show the picture because every time I land on the picture, it plays the video. But if I describe it to you, maybe remember, it was an Unsolved Mysteries. If you remember, there was 2 mounds of dirt and a pair of red shoes sitting on one of the graves. This was an Unsolved Mysteries from, I think, season 2, but it was told from the perspective of one of the couples in one of the houses, but there was 3 or 4 or 5 houses involved. So, actually probably more than that in this case. I think it was like 6 of them, but they were all in what they called section 12 of this one development. It was all toward the end. And what had happened was, of course, like over time, somebody owned a lot of land during, this is in Texas, and during the end of slavery, there was a town where everybody still kind of massed together. And one of the landowners gave them some land, and they built a church, a schoolhouse, and a cemetery. And then over time, that church and that schoolhouse, dilapidated, went away. The cemetery was covered over, and it was called Black Hope Cemetery. And the next thing you know, they sell the land. And these developers just, they didn't even really have to move the headstones because they were so poor. They didn't have a lot of headstones that would have lasted that amount of time. If you think about it, they had markers like they marked on trees. They put, wood and things like that, but not big headstones. There's a few headstones, and whatever was there, they just moved it. Just like Poltergeist said, they just moved the headstones. So, the company kept saying they didn't know, and they kept playing the court battle thing back and forth. But the confusing thing about this horror is that the Unsolved Mysteries was from the perspective of Sam and Judith Haney. Okay. They were in one house, and across the street was the Williamses, and it was Gene Williams and Ben, or everybody called him Shag Williams. Then they did a movie after Unsolved Mysteries called Grave Secrets, The Legend of, I can't remember. They made up the street name. It was really called Poplar Way, I think. So the movie that starred Patty Duke, and that's on YouTube. You can watch that. And David Soul was in it, a couple other people. But that's taken from the perspective of the house across the street. And like I said, that was the Williams. That's Gene Williams and Shag Williams. And their granddaughter, Carly, she came to live with them, and she was about 8 or 9 years old. So she lived there too, a young girl. So that movie, Grave Secrets, is all done from their perspective. And then you'll see the other couple pop in and out because, each one are going through their own stuff. And it really was one of those things where when the ambulance showed up and everybody, kind of meets in the street kind of thing. And they're like, well, we've got problems too. Do you have problems? So the problems ranged from toilets would flush by themselves. Alarm clocks that weren't plugged in would literally glow and sparkle, have electrical sparks coming out of them. They weren't even plugged in. Shadows on the wall. The one house, the one across the street, the Williamses, they had a plague of bugs that would come out of nowhere and just be all over the wall, kind of like Amityville Horror, but these were more like a beetle of some kind. It was really, hey, Ian, welcome in. And different things like that. So That's the really confusing part, is if you watch the Unsolved Mysteries, you'll hear about the couple across the street, you know, but you're hearing it from the Haney's vantage point, and the movie Grave Secrets is from the people across the street. So people get those mixed up or don't even know that they belong together, and they do. So that's kind of interesting. And on top of that, the Haneys wrote a book. Yeah, it was yeah, it was Sam Haney. They wrote a book on the whole experience, and that's called Black Hope Horror. So there's a whole nother name. So you might, think they're all independent of each other, and they're not. They're all from the same neighborhood. And I think that's amazing, because you can take each one of these state, things. Either the Unsolved Mysteries was like bombastic, and they didn't even, they barely scratched the surface. Their main thing was, when the people moved in, they had no idea this was going to be their dream home. You know the story. They move in and things start happening. Everything was okay. Cold spots, little things like that. But all of a sudden they get a knock at the door when the pool guy shows up, and the trucks to put the pool in start showing up. The guy knocks on the door and tells him, "Hey, let me show you something in your backyard." And he goes over and he points over by a tree. He goes, "There's 2 bodies buried right here. You're going to dig a hole right where in the middle of a graveyard, putting in a pool." And the guy was like, "Halt, halt, halt. Stop all the trucks." You know, he said he didn't know how to deal with this. He didn't know if the guy was joking or what. And he says, "Well, I'll tell you, they're right here." And the guy goes out to talk to the truck drivers and everything, turns around and talks to the guy's gone. Now, whether he just hightailed her out of there or whatever, but that was the beginning of the mysteries right there. He calls the sheriff. They dig down with the backhoe, and sure enough, they hit an old pine box and they hit bone. And then the fun starts, and it really starts digging in. Now, these people, they went through some stuff, because that one family, the family across the street, and that is, again, I get them mixed up, the Williamses. Okay, the Williamses, with the one with the little girl Carly. Their daughter died and had a heart attack at 30. 6 members of their immediate family got a fast moving cancer, and only two of them made it through that. So they lost 4 people all within just a couple of years. And it was only people that came and stayed at that house for like a vacation or over the weekend or something like that. That's high odds, Steve.
Yep.
I mean, and then the daughter, she had a heart attack, and I'll tell you how that happened. But the instances on the heart attack was the ambulance got lost on the way to the house to pick her up, and then got lost on the way to the hospital on the way back to the
Now, how does
hospital.
an ambulance get lost on the way to the hospital?
There was all kind of things like that. That's a little more. Do you see what I'm saying? That's a little
Yeah,
more than an earthbound spirit that's a little ticked off to me.
yeah,
An earthbound ghost.
that's something, the next level, next strata of demonic activity or whatever.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I agree 100%. And that was what I started digging in it for, to go, okay, look, first of all, they were oppressed when they were here. They got to be free people. They had some dignity. They get buried, and then you land on their hey, Nora, welcome in. You build on their graves,
Yes.
move their headstones, and then you blame them for giving cancer to your family. No, because I don't believe the human spirits or even earthbound angry ghosts. I think one could hang out and drain you and make you sick, but I don't think that they would pull some of the stuff that happened in some of this. We'll go over some of that too. But anyway, here's a quick little video. It's like a minute, and it's just some pictures and a couple of facts about it to show you a little bit about the people I'm talking about tonight, the Haneys, the Williams, and Mr. Norton, Jasper Norton too. He was like their number one witness. He had actually buried some of the people there, and nobody listened to him. So here we go. You ready, Steve?
Roll that beautiful bean footage, Cisco.
That's what we're doing. That's the book by Ben and Jean Williams. And Sam and Judith Haney bought their dream home in the upscale subdivision of Newport outside of Houston, Texas in 1982. See, and that's when the movie came out, so it can't be. And that's them. And you get their perspective on the unsolved mysteries as well. That's the house. And Ben and Jean Williams lived across the street from the Haneys and their granddaughter Carly, and they had built the home in 1980. And that's them. That's little Carly. Now this is Jasper Norton. He was a witness. As a teenager, he had buried some of the bodies in that area himself. And he stood up and he said so. And that is Betty Thomas. She is one of the bodies that was buried in the late 1930s. She was one of the ones that were there on with her husband. And that's what part of the cemetery looked like. Now, they did go through a lot of court proceedings and everything else. They won, and then they took it away from them. They had to go bankrupt, and they charged them $50,000 for the legal fees. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? So they tried to fight it. They had witnesses. They had everything they had in this house, of course. And in their case, this is how it started for them. They get this house. They start to put in a pool. And they get the knock at the door, and a gentleman comes to the door and says, "Hey, you got a couple bodies back over there." And like I said, they halted the pool. He showed them where, and they called the sheriff. They did an exhumation. They found the bones right next to him in a pine box, and of course the box was gone. As soon as the bones hit air, they just about deteriorated. The second body, buried later on, was that of a female. Okay, so this was Betty Thomas and Charlie Thomas. And the thing that broke my heart was the lady said that as they're digging this up, they had found 2 wedding rings, 2, on one finger on her hand. And they took the rings and they handed them to her. And she said it just made her sick to her stomach. She said, because here we had desecrated these graves. I don't know what to do. And they tried to figure out what to do, but there had been no family that was left that were related to them. And so they took on the expense and reburied them right where they were and put the rings back and everything else. But to me, I'm thinking he must have gone first. She took his ring and put it on her finger and wore it for him. And then here they are winding up in their hands, and it just about tore her up. Now she goes, they were having stuff like the toilets flushing on their own, so many different things, all the little stuff you can imagine, lights going on and off, cold spots, walking into things like that, never being able to get quite warm, very much like you heard in Amityville, that kind of thing. They weren't seeing too many shadows, but they were hearing the doors opening and closing, like somebody's coming in the screen door, and she hears somebody call out, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she thinks it's her husband, and she goes out, there's nobody there. That kind of stuff for them. Why it was like that for them and so different across the street, I don't know. I can't really sort that in my head unless it was just the people themselves, because we know that people can affect a haunting. Their own energy can affect a haunting. But they were having stuff like that, never really been able to sleep, always that feeling of foreboding, being watched. They were seeing shadows walking together, so almost columns of gray mist, not black shadow people on the wall so much, but shadows walking down the hall or through the kitchen or through the backyard. They would see stuff like this. And one day, she goes to Judith goes to look for a pair of shoes in her closet, a pair of red shoes, and she can't find them. So she's looking all over the house. I leave them under the couch, I put them in the kitchen, where the laundry room. Her husband starts helping her. They can't find these red shoes. And they go walking out the back because she's talking about putting some more bushes along the side around the edge of the thing. And he looks over at where the graves are by this tree, and there are the red shoes sitting on the grave of Betty Thomas. And then as he looks back in time, looks back, he's putting together this book, he realizes that the date they found the shoes on her grave, it was her birthday. It was Betty Thomas's birthday. So they just assumed it was her husband came and took the shoes and gave his wife some red shoes for her birthday. I thought that was really something else. Now that I can believe, because I can't see a demonic presence doing something like that, even to throw somebody off. It's too kind of an act, if you know what I mean. But again, I don't think that people that have died, and if they have crossed over and they're not earthbound, I just can't see them stirring up all this madness, even worrying about, I can see being mad at the company who did it, but I can't see them doing some of this stuff, Steve.
Yeah. And one of the things I found interesting, the name of the road, Poppet's Way. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the definitions of a poppet is a small figure of a human being that's used in magic and witchcraft rituals. That's where puppet
really
comes from. Yeah. So let me
wow.
find the definition here real quick.
Wow.
And kind of a creepy thing.
That might go back to legend or lore then.
Yeah.
In that area.
I just kind of caught that. I'll put the definition in the chat here if it'll take it. Yeah, there you go. In folk magic and witchcraft, a poppet is a doll made to represent a person through casting spells on that person or to aid that person through magic. They are occasionally found lodged in chimneys. So there you go, Poppet's Way. It was the name of the road. So there's a little bit of the name game there.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, I think it's got something to do with it, because you know how that little bit of something lingers, like, you might have everything else has dispelled the memory of it, but the stupid motel down the corner that's been there 50 years is named after, Devil's Cliff or whatever. And you go, wait a minute, how did he get that name in? You find out, bunch of 30 or 40 people have thrown themselves off.
Lauren Coleman wrote about it back in the 80s, and Charles Fort wrote about it back in the 40s or the 50s. But a lot of places that have devil names, Diablo names, ghost names, witch names, there will be stuff there. And I don't know if, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Does stuff happen because of the name, or was it so named because stuff happened there?
Right.
Indigenous people, a lot of times they named, Devil's Tower, Devil's Gulch, or Diablo Canyon or something. And there's usually something weird that happens in places with that name.
Exactly. How you doing, Travis? You doing okay out there, buddy? I hope you went and got some of that stuff I told you to get. I can't stand being cold. I know every trick to stay warm. You can trust me. And Nora said that she's had a lot going on. She's glad to be back after a couple weeks. And Catherine says she had something similar happened to her and her family where she used to live. And it is really so sad. Lindsay, all of the connections to this. Hey, Linda, how you doing, sweetie? Just wanted to make sure there wasn't. And Pammy, welcome in. So that's the thing. It's just really weird. So that's the one side. That's the side for Sam and Judith. Now Sam and Judith gone on to, basically, we're fighting for this. These developers knew this. I'm having problems. There's all kind of things. This woman would just cry for, hours, just burst into tears. They were really being affected by things. And again, I can see earthbound spirits doing that kind of stuff, but across the street was a little different. Now, in the movie, again, like I said, the movie is really from the neighbors across the street, their point of view. And that guy, I think David Soul plays him in the movie, but they really got the brunt of this. And so did a lot of other neighbors that never spoke up. They just came in and got out. Within 6 months, they were gone. never said anything, just took off. Now that's unusual to build a new house and be gone within 6 months. I think there was 3 or 4 of those, that's saying something. And the one with the little girl, Carly, that came to live with them, every flower she planted died in the yard. Now, boy, I'll tell you, that's like having dogs that won't stop barking at corners. You're planting every flower. I mean, if you had your soil tested, it doesn't tell you there's anything wrong with the soil, and you're buying flowers from different places. I mean, you got to figure something's going on here. They really had it bad. So they're getting, all of them had the lights flashing on and off and the faucets turning on and off and voices. Now, when Carly would say, the young girl, when the toilet would flush by themselves and you could walk by or you were there when it happened, you could hear voices as the water is swirling. You could hear all these voices talking. Now, that's creepy, Steve.
Yeah.
And I wondered if that didn't have something to do with the water. I'm wondering, because you would almost think like they're underground, so they're talking, and that's why you hear them, because of water. But I think it has something to do with the water.
Bodies, those corpses under the ground, they're probably a part of the aquifer. They've been under there for a while.
I mean, that's
what you're drinking.
The way you'd think. Well, it's in the trees and everything else, just like in battlefields. I mean, the reality of it, right? And I think in the movie, Patty Duke even says that, the trees are beating on the windows during a storm. And she's saying, they're in the trees, all this kind of stuff. But again, it's just so easy to speak of. This is so easy to put out all these facts. But you go through 2 years of this solid hell day after day after day, it really starts working on you. They're not sleeping. They're sick. Their daughter is sick. Tina, she goes in there and it hits her bad. The toilet flushes by herself. She hears the voices. She gets really sick, and she's only okay when she leaves the house. So she comes to stay, and then she gets really bad off. She winds up getting cancer. They bring her back to take care of her, and the shadows would come on the walls at night, and, they're throwing it off to, well, she's just tired. She's sick. It's the medication. It's the treatment. They're not listening to her. Finally, she got so sick that it saved her life because they took her out of the house, put her in the hospital. And that actually happened too. It just, crazy stuff. And they were the ones who had all the relatives that died of the cancer. So something obviously much darker in their area, in that end. And they're the ones who had the bodies. So, and dug them up. So on top of all this mess, one of the ladies, she just gets so upset because they're losing money. They're sick, so they're losing money for that. They can't afford to just leave. And she sees the other family across the street going through the court cases, and they're saying, well, you don't have any bodies. Well, you can't get in that state, you have to have a family member say it's okay to dig up the body or exhume the body. Everybody's dead. There is no family members anymore. And the people that are left who do understand are just there in the town, mad as hell that they're building this development anyway, and nobody wants to cooperate. And except that one man, Mr. Norton, who went down and said, look, I buried them there, and they still wouldn't listen. So the lady loses her mind. She says, if they want a body, I'll give them a body. If I might only be able to dig a couple inches a day or a couple feet a day, but if I keep digging, I'm eventually going to hit a body. So I'll just tell them I'm doing a garden. So she goes out there and starts digging, this older lady. And she's getting tired. And her daughter, this Tina daughter, takes over. And the lady goes in the house. Tina takes 2 shovel into the ground, has a massive heart attack. She's the one that the ambulance got lost coming and got lost on the way back to the hospital. And she died at 30 years old. Massive heart attack. Yeah. So, it wasn't just, we've got shadows or this or that. Now, in their bathroom, I got the book. I got it online, an ebook. And I'm reading through, and towards the end, he's the one who said, I doubt all this time, the things that I saw and the things that happened, he said there was a crack in the bathroom ceiling of their master bedroom. And it was a crack that would never, no matter what they did, it wouldn't go away. Like that stain, you clean it up, you paint, and it comes back, that kind of thing. It started out small, and each time he would fix it, it would just break open again, like there was a black oil that would drip from it onto the sink in the bathroom. It smelled really foul. And he went up and he hired people to go up in the roof, whatever, and go into the attic and look. There's nothing there. It was just from this side. You just pull back the insulation. Hey, Scott's Life. You pull back the insulation and
Hey,
you
Scott,
just
how
see
you
down
doing?
into the bathroom. You just see right down to the bathroom. There's no pipes. There's nothing leaking or anything else. There's just this black goo. And he would see, and so would his wife, this black snake that would come out of this bathroom and go down the hall and like go up the wall and just disappear. And they were the ones who had the black shadows that would come in mass and just come up the walls. They almost said it was like a black ink that would come up from the floor and envelop the whole. Look, this is not pissed off human beings that are earthbound. This is something totally different. And it's just my theory. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it's my theory that something went in there with all that trauma and anger, the oppression. These people thinking, my Aunt Sally's up there and nobody cares enough about her to even, they just tossed her gravestone away. Nobody cared. It's, and that kind of history on the ground as well, because you've got plantations and things like that, blood-soaked ground one way or another. And I think it worked on the trauma. I think it fed on the fear of the living, and just kept getting bigger and bigger because I'm not going to say that ghosts don't have the ability to make someone sick or harm them or even kill them. I'm not saying that. I just think that this was a level of evil that took something a lot darker. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There's much more going on there than Uncle Ed, who didn't pass on. There's something darker, more sinister, more malevolent there at work.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I'm reading from the book here that I got pulled up. They did take it to court. They won $142,000 in damages, and at the very end there, the judge reversed it and saying that the Purcell company didn't intentionally neglect anything, and they wound up having to pay the $50,000 in legal fees on top of everything else. So they went bankrupt, and they just said to hell with everything, and they packed up, and they had a small cabin in Montana, and they went and eked it out in the snow out there. And they said once they got there, they were fine, but they had lost so much, and still the house now, again, very much like the Amityville and stuff like that. The people that it stayed empty for a long time, but the people that are in that neighborhood now say they get some stuff, and of course the other two in the big houses say they don't get anything. But I don't think that means a thing, Steve. I've heard it all before. It doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the family can leave a house like that, and everything else that's in there that's bothering them just jumps to another house or goes to another place or whatever. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. Don't ever let that deter you from believing that something happened in the house with another couple or whatever. Or they could just be lying. We don't want the people knocking on our doors and stuff, because people still do. They go down the house, and like I said in that one movie, the Grave Secrets, and it is available on YouTube. Grave Secrets, I think it's the Legend of Hilltop Way or something like that. They changed the name of the street, so people couldn't find it, but now of course everybody knows that it's did you say Poppet's Way, Steve?
Poppet's Way, yeah. It's in Newport, Texas, I think, which is right there in the edge of Crosby. It's kind of an upscale area, but
yeah, it was.
It's I think it's like the highest point around there, which Texas, that's not necessarily very high, but I was traveling north one time from Houston, that area, to Amarillo, and I stopped for gas, flat, dry, dusty, and I said something to the attendant there, and he said, "Yep, you can see for 5 miles, and if you stand on a can of tuna, you can see for 10 miles."
That's a trip, man. I can't see it like this. Let me go back here and read what
It's
they
one of
said
those where
here.
you see the mountains off in the distance, and you drive and you drive and you drive several hours, and it doesn't look like you're getting any closer.
That's that's what you call in the South a fur piece. That's a fur piece. So in the book, The Black Hope Horror, and like I said, it was written by oh goodness. Yeah, Sam Haney and Judith Haney. And again, this woman was brokenhearted. I mean, that all this happened, and they tried to do everything right, but they had a lot going against them. But in May 1987, word came that the Haneys had lost their lawsuit against the Purcell Corporation. And I wanted to jump over here. Yeah, that was rough. They just went bankrupt. Screw it all. There's a part here that he had said. Okay. He said that Sam Haney said the trial was vicious and he was diagnosed as having stress-induced diabetes. The Purcell's expert says the stress does not induce diabetes, and they referred to my doctor as a pea shooter, and theirs is a rocket launcher. They were up against a corporation. I mean, that's the thing, guys. The moral of the story is, if you're going to buy a house, you have a parade of mediums and psychics go through there first, and you make sure you do a history on the land that you're building on. But on the surface, these events resemble the film Poltergeist, with one major exception. This was real. The stress of the events changed my life. It is not completely pulled back together even yet. And this was written, I think, in the 90s. There are a lot of old Black people in the area who knew people or are related to people that were buried at Black Hope Graveyard. They were afraid of the establishment. They are seething. They are upset, but they won't do anything. They're afraid Purcell will squash them. So again, the corporate foot, you know what I mean? And again, it's just not right. He was saying something about how he came to terms with what he thought was in that house. And it was basically like I described. It's kind of hard to find it here in this book. But that's the gist of it, guys. I mean, the big thing about this whole thing that I found out about was that there was a lot more developments where people had these things happening in their house, enough to start, to do Poltergeist was based off two. One was in Long Island. I haven't been able to find the other one that Spielberg basically based his thing on. And this was going on at the same time. That blows my mind. If they had been younger, they might have gone down to the movies to see it. I can't imagine going to see a ghost movie if you had one at home. But the teenagers and stuff.
One.
Yeah, that was a huge hit. It
was. I saw that in the theater back in the day. Hey, Rockin' Robin, how you doing? Good to see you.
So what do y'all think? Do you think that it was a mixture of things? I think some of the things in the haunting make sense to me. There was one instance where the guy was really kind of funny. He came home from work, and when he opened the door, he noticed two of these shadow figures kind of in the kitchen. And then they walked from the kitchen through the living room, and he watches them go, and they walk side by side down to the hallway, and he follows them. And his wife was in there taking a nap. And when he got to the bedroom, there was only one there. So I don't know if one left or they became one. I have no clue. But there was one standing over her while she was sleeping, and he just dove through it to protect his wife. It was like the bravest thing I ever seen. And he lands on his wife, and she smacked him. "What the hell are you doing?" And he said, he was so funny when he said it on Unsolved Mysteries. He said, all I could think of is they weren't messing with my wife. I thought that was great, man. But yeah, the book is A Black Hope Horror, and the movie is Grave Secrets. There's a couple of Grave Secrets out there, so make sure you put the Legend of Hilltop Way, I think it is, or put Grave Secrets Patty Duke, and it'll come up. It is free on YouTube, I think, in most places.
And Darren Marlar, a friend of mine, he's got a podcast called Weird Darkness. He did a whole episode on it. It's like almost 2 hours, I think. It's fascinating stuff.
Oh, really? Oh, good. And The Unsolved Mysteries episode is on YouTube as well. And if you put in a Black Hope Horror, it usually pops up. So that's, 3 different names for the same haunting, only because there were so many families involved. And I think that just gives it more validation than anything else. I mean, nobody got anything. It's not like they got their house paid for or got a big lump sum of money. Nobody got a thing. The book went into, I think, like 1 or 2 printings. It did okay, but nobody's made a lot of money. It probably cost them more to do it back then than they ever made on it, So, and the book was done on another, the movie was done off of another thing. So they didn't make anything off of that either. That's crazy. But Spielberg sure made a lot. But again, it wasn't based on this. So it's incredible. And it's not just... I've looked up a couple things that said it was Indian burial ground. No, that's wrong. It was not, again, let's just call it like it is, but I think these people need to stop getting blamed for a haunting they didn't do, that they already went through enough, so, well, that's it. That's what I've got for that one, Steve. So what have you been up to?
It's the usual, doing the radio show. I'm on Clyde Lewis's Ground Zero Radio Network. Cisco's already been on there for 2 episodes.
That was fun.
Had Midwest Night Watchers, Garrel and his wife Jane, as Chiro Sounds. I had them on this past weekend. So check that out. Just published my 19th book the other day. So
wow,
excited
Steve.
about that. I got the blog on Substack, and I'm going to be adding audio over there, and just something going on all the time. I stay busy, loving it. And I'm almost to 100,000 subs on Among the Missing. It's 99,111 last time I looked. So if you're not subscribed, please come over there and subscribe. I'm going to do something special once I hit 100K.
That's awesome, Steve. I mean, that's, 19 books and all that, and the channels and everything else. I see the channels are doing great. That's wonderful.
More books on the way, too. I can't stop. It's one of them things that gets into your blood and under your skin. And other than that, married life,
thank you, Sapphire.
4th month anniversary today. So
wow, time is flying. That's for sure.
It really is. Doesn't seem like it could possibly be that long. And then in other ways, it seems like we've been married for years. So,
right. I was seeing, I had another thing that told a little bit about what they were going through so much stuff. They were getting scratched and all this other stuff, but let me see if I can find, I think I got it right here. See if I can share this one. I might not be able to see it, but I'll try. Yep. Okay, I can read it from here. So Ben and Jean, wait a minute. Sam and Judith were not the only ones that experienced supernatural phenomenon. A dozen of their neighbors also reported lights, television, and water faucets turning on and off. Many heard unearthly sounds and saw supernatural apparitions. Ben and Jean Williams moved into the same subdivision around the same time as Sam and Judith. Shortly after, Jean noticed that her plants kept dying. She reported that sinkholes appeared in the unmistakable shape of a coffin near their flower beds. They would fill them in only to have them reappear a few days later. Ben and Jean also noticed strange markings on a tree near the sinkholes. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was crazy. Because that guy, Jasper Norton, said he's the one who put the arrow there to point where he buried his 2 sisters. His 2 sisters were buried there. This is, it's just crazy what they get away with. It's just wrong is wrong. So they would feel. Ben and Jean also noticed strange markings on a tree near the sinkholes. An arrow pointed down toward the ground. Beneath it were 2 horizontal slash marks. A longtime resident told Ben and Jean that he had marked the tree. He said that he had done so because his 2 sisters were buried beneath it. Ben and Jean felt guilty for practically desecrating their graves. Ben and Jean soon began experiencing supernatural phenomenon, random shadows sliding along their walls, accompanied by whispers and a putrid smell. Their granddaughter, Carly, who lived with them, reported that during the blazing heat of the summer, she would encounter bone-chilling pockets of ice-cold air. It would be very, very chilly, and you'd have a feeling of foreboding or just, like something wasn't right. she said. Anywhere in the house, you have that feeling you were not alone. Somebody was watching you. It terrified me and to be in the house all by myself. Carly recalled other strange incidents in the house. The toilets used to flush on their own. As the water went down, I could hear what was almost like conversations. You could hear people murmuring to themselves. It was a presence or a spirit or something there, something that wanted to be heard, wanted me to know that it was there. Jean recalled another incident when she and Carly were about to take a nap. They heard the sound of the back door opening and closing. When they heard the sounds of footsteps walking towards them, however, no one was there. I mean, again, you can mark this up with, oh, this and it's not as bad as this, or it's not as bad. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, you lose 6 people in your family. Your 30-year-old daughter has a massive heart attack, and you know what I mean? You don't have a day of peace. And it's all because these people, it's the poltergeist thing. Their house didn't get sucked down in the ground like in the movie. Thank you, Sapphire Elf, so much. And thank you guys so much last night for the super chats, for everybody who commented, who gave a thumbs up, and that you've been doing that along the way here. I appreciate it so much. It helps the channel because they don't like my big mouth. So I'm a little shadow banned. I say some things sometimes. They don't like it. But, that's about it as far as that goes, like I said. And I think everybody's going through that with, I've got this just kind of like, I mean, I think it's just been tired since Halloween, Steve. Yep. I think all light workers are really just getting really drained right now. Everybody just needs to tap in and recharge and meditate and do all that kind of stuff. I love that Katie Turner threw in some of her stuff too. She says any kind of salt, take a salt bath. She's got things like you said, like salt rocks, or salt balls that you can get, and you can, go over your skin and detoxify and stuff. Do whatever you need to do, fire gaze and a candle, cleanse with crystals. Steve, you do that. You know a lot more about the crystal stuff than I do. But I mean, I use them. I just don't do it.
Just carry one around in your pocket, and then every now and then you got to take it out and clean it, smudge it.
Yep. There's a lot of people in the chat.
The energy. Obsidian does that too.
Mm-hmm. I think black tourmaline is probably the only one that doesn't need to be cleaned, right?
Yeah.
But we talked about sage and blue sage, and just going up the rung of the ladder. Sometimes you'll need a little more. Sometimes you need to add, some dragon's blood incense, or some frankincense, some myrrh, sweetgrass, whatever. Add to it, because it's just like if you're taking herbs, for your body. Say you're taking echinacea or something like that, and then somebody around you gets sick. Well, what do? You take that echinacea, but you up it by adding some like a stronger echinacea tincture or some root or something like that. You up it. And it's the same thing you do when we're doing this. I've been kind of
like with garlic. You have to activate it. You have to chop it, let it rest for 5-10 minutes, and then it works better than if you just chew it up.
Yep, it doubles the healing power when you do that. Yep, chop it, wait 7 to 10 minutes, and then chop it again, and then take it, because you're doubling it. So it's wonderful. Yep, that too. Yep, selenite, suglite, so many of them. There's people in this chat that know a lot more about those than I do. I learned about a stone because from my perspective, my vantage point, I'm a wire sculptor. So I'll have people ask me, do you have something that will magnify, love or something like that, or resonate love, vibration? So sure. Rose quartz, or angel lace agate or something along those lines. And then I'll go learn about that, but I go in that door. So I'm no expert. I know a couple of things about some stones, but there's people. That's why I try to bring people on this show that know stuff like that, and they can share it with you. And you guys, because I'm learning too sometimes when it comes to that. And that's what I told those 2 new ladies. Look, you guys do stuff. They talk about, astrology and numerology and energy and the moons and alignments and all this other. I understand it when you're telling it to me, but I'm no expert in that field. I just know it's all part of it. You know what I mean? We all have like a little piece of that puzzle, right, Steve?
Right. That's exactly right.
Yep. So that's why I bring people on that, can tell you guys about that. So what's going on with everybody out there? Hey, D-Rock. How you doing, sweetie? Welcome in. Welcome in.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby. I didn't get to talk to you guys much last night, so I figured I'd save this part to talk to you a little bit, see what's going on. Yeah, how's the Waggy Tails doing, honey? I hope they're doing well. Hope he's doing well, Ted. Hope so. Are you kidding me? We hadn't seen you in a while. Glad you're in. So what have you been doing out there in the good old East Coast now that you're here? You liking this cold weather snap?
I'm loving it. It's snowing
6
outside
feet of
right
snow?
now.
Is it
in
really?
my part of New England. Yeah, it's putting snow out there. It's supposed to warm up tomorrow to 46, I think, but it was, I think 28 or 29 or something when I got up this morning to take Mulder out. It's a little chilly, but I love it. It beats the hell out of the desert.
I'm glad. It does. You really did go from one element to the other.
Yeah, and just over the past few years, I've literally been coast to coast. I started out in East Tennessee, went to Florida, went from there to Las Vegas, went from there to Portland, Oregon, to Washington State, back to St. Helens, Oregon, and then to New Mexico, and then now here I am in New England. So I've literally went from Florida to the West Coast, and then from the West Coast to the desert, and then back to the East Coast. But now, when I lived in Vegas, the Mojave, it was different. The elevation has a lot to do with it. And when I lived in New Mexico, I was at 5,600 and something feet. And elevation really played hell with me for a good while there.
Yeah, I mean, that can really,
plus
yeah.
you got humidity there too. It's hot. Plus the Animas River was right there where I lived. So you had the triple digits and high humidity, and I'm not cut out for that anymore. I much prefer cold weather, rainy weather, cloudy, overcast.
Really? Well, yeah, like I said, you went from one to the other. I'm looking here. I had a little story I could throw, but I got to find it in all this mess. That's what I'm doing. Going from one to the other, I'm surprised your body didn't go into some kind of, cross state shock or something, because you really did. You went from the desert to man. And you flew though, didn't you?
Yeah. I was supposed to drive, and my driver got sick, so I flew, and that was interesting. Had to go backwards to start. I was supposed to fly out of Albuquerque to Chicago to Rhode Island, and flight got bumped or delayed or something. They flew me from Albuquerque to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix to DC, and then DC to Rhode Island. So it took me an extra day to get there. I spent the night on the floor in the airport in Phoenix, but still got here and got married on the 13th as we'd planned. So it all worked out. But it was quite an adventure, and Mr. Mulder was with me.
I felt horrible. I couldn't be there, man. I got so much going on over here. I think I found the little ghost story here. Let me see if I can find it. It was a reincarnation one, and it was really cool. I think I found it. I can't believe it. I think I did. Yep, I think I did. But do you see this picture right here?
Yep.
Right there. That's what it looked like to them, except they didn't have the eyes and the nose. So these shadows would crawl all over the wall. That's, that's something different. And the snake and the black ooze, that the stench and all that kind of stuff, that's something different. I can't believe that people didn't pick up on this and are still blaming again the people that were buried in the graves. I think that they're crossed over. If it's nothing, I'll tell you, the people at that time had faith. You know what I mean? And I can see some staying back, but not all. And I don't think anybody crossed over, became an enlightened being, and came back and cared a darn thing about where their bones were. I just don't see it.
I don't think it works like that.
Not to be this angry. But anyway, this is an extraordinary, if it's the one I think it is, and I hope it is, this is from the Australian TV show, The Extraordinary, with the wonderful Warwick Moss. And I got to tell this story again. I was reading in the comments once under one of his shows, and some of you can find some real gems in the comments, And in fact, I have one to finish up the show that I pulled on the Black Oak Horror. But it said, I was working in Australia on the beach, in like an ice cream stand or something like that, she said. And she said, one hot day, here comes this man, and in a red Speedo, and he comes up to my window, and it's Warwick Moss, and he said he wanted a milkshake. And she says, what flavor? And she said, so help me God. He said, strawberry. Every time I see him, I think of that. I could just, amazing. In a red Speedo. Oh, gosh, I don't know if I could. But I hope it is. If not, I know it's a good ghost story. I hope you enjoy it. About 6 minutes, 7 minutes, Steve, I think. But it's a good one. It's reincarnation. Ooh, ghosties. Come on,
Ghost
tell me
has
which
got
one
some
you are.
fangs, got some
Good
teeth
evening.
on it.
I'm Warwick
Scare.
Moss.
Here he is, the man himself.
The Australian outback is harsh, unforgiving. Thousands and thousands of kilometres of dust and sparse bush. No life. For the hardy folk who pioneered the outback, help was rarely on hand when it was needed. For one family, however, their time of crisis coincided with the appearance of what they've come to call their guardian angel.
Moving from one farm to another. My father was a farmer, and they arrived at this farm to the front of the farm and she was wearing a Salvation Army uniform. And she came over to Mum and she said, I'm collecting for the Salvation Army. So the Salvation Army lady came inside, I'm collecting for the Salvation Army. So the Salvation Army lady came inside, had a look round, went over to look at Dad and helped bandage his leg and his ankle. It turned out his ankle was broken.
Dennis McAvoy, incapacitated. His wife, unwell. And their baby, Rosemary, distraught. In the middle of all this, in the middle of the great Australian unknown, an angel of mercy had appeared. The McAvoys didn't even know her name, but they did know their very survival depended on her. She cared for Dennis, prepared food, and fed baby Rosemary. She unpacked the truck and settled the McAvoys into their new home. It seemed like some kind of miracle.
She was there for quite a few hours, quite a long time. And when she thought that everything was in order and everything settled down and they seemed to be all right, out she went and got on her bicycle and down the long drive to the main road and off she went.
Off into the unknown from whence she came, leaving behind a grateful McAvoy family and an everlasting mystery.
Mum always said afterwards she reckoned that I would have died because I wasn't very well, and with her being upset and one thing and another, I could quite easily have died if she hadn't been able to get help because she couldn't drive.
So who was this angel of mercy, this friend in need who appeared in the Australian outback all those years ago? A good question, and one the McAvoys were never able to answer.
Mum, when she went into the nearest town, to several of the nearest towns, she inquired for this lady, and she said that she would like to make a donation to the Salvation Army and something in return for what she had done and so on. Nobody had ever heard of her. Nobody had ever heard of her name. There was nobody of that name who had ever lived there, and there was no one around there who had ever belonged to the Salvation Army.
Salvation, at a time and a place where there was no Salvation Army. A woman who was so real, yet so fleeting to that desperate family more than 60 years ago. A woman, it seems, who never existed.
At the time when it happened, she didn't realise how strange it was, but it was, within a couple of days when she started to think about it, she suddenly realised, well, how would a lady be riding a bicycle miles and miles and miles out from anywhere along a metal road in the middle of nowhere sort of thing all of a sudden, and right at that particular time?
Never, in more than 40 years, did the woman ever appear to May McAvoy again. Never was she able to trace her. Her explanation, the one she took with her to the grave, was simple. Only once in her life did she need a guardian angel. And on that desperate day, the angel appeared.
Mum definitely thought it was an angel. She said that it couldn't have been anything else but an angel, because what other explanation was there for it?
Boo. Happy Halloween anyway. Right,
No,
see,
that
it
was
was
a good
always
one.
Halloween.
Yep.
It's always Halloween right now.
All-
Yeah, it was a
Halloween
good story.
all the time.
It wasn't the one I thought it was, but it was a good one because I don't know what to say about that. I think it was probably a spirit guide or an angel. I mean, that's just weird.
Yeah.
Out of the middle of nowhere, when you need it the most. And then you got people, well, why doesn't this one show up for this one? I don't know. I don't know why, miracles like that happen some, and it's got to be rhyme or reason to it. We just don't have the book, do we, Steve? We don't have all the rule book, But yeah, it is a good story, Nora. It was a good one. It's a nice thing to, after something that dark, to know that those things do happen, and the blow your mind thing about it, to where there was so many different stories of developments being built on different types of cemeteries. It was usually cemeteries of the long forgotten, the poor, a certain, like I said, even in Keith Linder's, a Scottish cemetery, of immigrants that at the time they just, put probably by a church that they built that probably wasn't built as strong as some of the ones in town, and the church just demolishes over time.
Like one of the characters said in Maverick, said, "I blame the Native Americans for being here on our land before we got here."
Yeah, it's all our fault.
I can say
we
that.
Get blamed.
I'm eighth Cherokee, so I can laugh at that.
It's okay. It's okay. Because here's the thing. I always wonder, why certain cultures get so mad. Here's the thing. It's up to you to keep your tradition alive. It's up to you to keep your culture alive. I always thought that was the neatest thing when you had, when I was a kid, and you'd hear, about New York having, Little Russia, Little Italy. And I would still do. You can walk through and everything just changes, and it gets to that. And, some people like that and some don't, but you could see why people did it.
From one block from the next. I was in San Francisco, and you had Little Russia there, and then just in the next block, you're in Chinatown, and then on past that, and it's something else, and just it can change literally from one block to the next.
In every old movie, Steve, in the old movies, even in I forget which Godfather it is. I think it's the second. It might be the third, where he really goes back in time when he was a younger person living in all the tenements, and you had, certain people arguing, because somebody was cooking cabbage all the time. You could smell cabbage everywhere, or you go over here and everything smelled like oranges and mandarins. You go here and everything smells like that, and everybody kind of bitch about it back and forth. Everybody had that culture thing, though, that they were keeping alive, and it was purely out of necessity, coming out of Ellis Island and all the movement across the waters. Of course, you're going to group together with people that speak your language and understand your culture and your traditions and the things that you eat, and the things that you celebrate, and all of that. It makes sense to cluster together like that. And I think what started to happen is everybody's like splitting up, and they forget their own stuff. It used to be a neat thing to celebrate all those cultures. That was the big deal about being a kid and going to a Chinese restaurant and seeing all the cool stuff, and the tea and the writing and the fish tanks and the beautiful decorations and things like that. We got to keep celebrating those things. They're important. You don't want them to be stamped out and forgotten. That's the same as, Native Americans and, the indigenous here. But it's separated by, go back into your tribal, tradition. Navajos didn't do the same thing as Cherokee. Cherokee didn't do the same as Pawnee, and so on and so forth, but similar, and it's similar in their beliefs as well. We found that out too. And we talked about Bigfoot, but most of them most of the tribals, in the Americas anyway, all had names for them like people. It was translated to the people, or the hairy man, or it was all, just another tribe, kind of, just like you're dealing anything with nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's different. I guess my big thing is just, if you have traditions, it's important to keep those going. It's important to pass it down to your kids, because I'll tell you, it's just like these aliens that come through, and you hear, I was talking to Katie Turner last night about it off air, and we were talking about aliens and different types of aliens. Everybody puts every aliens in one box, no, there's multiple different kinds. And then you've got from outer space and then from extra dimensional, totally different things. Doesn't mean they can't be mixed together, but also separate, just like us. And we were talking about the species of what you would consider probably to be the Greys being very, how do you put it, very methodic, very robotic, very worker bee. And again, not all, just for a large part of the witness statements, okay? And also very confused and very, like, they don't compute when you start talking about emotion. It seems like the emotion part has almost evolved out of them, if they ever had it to begin with. But just let's assume that somewhere down the line their species had emotion and enjoyed eating and things like this, and now they don't even have a mouth anymore. They absorb stuff through their skin. They don't know why we love our children and care for them the way we do, because you're hearing all those stories about coming back and going, why do you why do you act this way? Why do you do these things? They don't understand the emotion part of it. And it seems like they're very just get it done. They probably don't even, I don't know how they sleep, but if you can imagine, they probably only do it with like out emotion and just the amount you need, or even if they do sleep. I'm spitballing here. But it seems like if that was a species, if that species did have emotion and feeling and understanding, compassion, how long did it take for that species to evolve away from all that? And how did that happen? Where we're in this time of real quick, let me just pop a pill. Let me pop vitamins instead of eating the food. Let me, you know what I mean? Start texting, forget how to shake hands, do all this other stuff. Are we evolving towards that? Or we try to take all emotion and make everything quick, like pushing a button. Something to think about. I think I don't think it would take as many thousands of years as people think it would, because it seems that we can condition really fast just to, be in that kind of hamster wheel kind of thing.
Yep.
What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, we've lost a lot of our humanity, I think, and as a trade-off for instant gratification.
Well said. Well said. Let me see if I can find that, and we'll close this out. I'll tell you what, guys, I'm sorry if I'm low energy tonight. I'm just really tired. I'm not sick.
Time change is still messing with me.
I think so.
Tired about 5 o'clock. It seems like it changed about 3 hours instead of an hour.
I was talking to Katie. That was one of the reasons too why we were being real strict with energy and stuff, because we're both really wide open right now as far as everything going on in the world. I mean, you guys are too, right? So we're trying to stay on that plane of, okay, just let me take in the information and let me move on about my day, put my light out there and keep my head above the line, I mean, it's almost like we're treading water, So it gets you get tired at, doing the doggy paddle for a while. So I think that's what it is. A lot of light workers are feeling really like, so don't let that get to you. Just stay up there, get your rest, take care of yourself, eat what you can. We have a lot of people in some situations right now. We're just getting through the day is getting harder and harder. So I don't want you to lose hope. I want you to hang in there. I want you to find something to focus on. And then you go right after that thing and you don't let anything get your way. And then you go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, just like every other thing you did get through this life. This is no different. Okay. And light workers, you're feeling a little extra weight on there. I want you to remember all the different things you do to ground, get creative, freaking color, if that's all you can do, or something else that gives you some kind of joy. Katie was talking about, we were talking about just take your shoe, even if it's cold outside, take your shoes off and hug a tree real quick, because it's so quick to get that jolt, and I think you can even get, if you take in the beauty and you stop for a minute and just watch some birds on a bird feeder, or watch some ducks swimming in a lake, or a deer, eating in a field or something, a bird flying, even if it's a daggum turkey buzzard. Enjoy the fact that nature is still moving right along. And that's how you should be. Just like I was saying with the indigenous peoples, just basically getting along with everything in balance with nature. We got to get back to that. And that's one of the things we forget about, especially coming up in the winter when you're less sun and all this other stuff. That's a real thing. What do they call that stupid thing, Steve? They got a name for it now. Not sundowners. That's worse. When the sun goes down and you feel that malaise all the time through winter, that kind of feeling, because you don't get as much.
SAD.
Sad.
Yeah, but I can't remember what that stands for.
It's a real thing. Yeah, it's a real thing. But try to get some. Go outside, rake the yard. You'll stay warm.
Seasonal affective disorder is what they call that.
There you go. That's it. So it's a real deal on top of everything else for light workers. So here, you're up against it. All right, you already know. You got extra tools in your box. You're just going to do stuff more, take care of you, eat the good cookie, watch the funny movie, watch some Three Stooges or some Abbott and Costello or something funny like Arsenic and Old Lace. I'm going to watch that again, Steve. And all that, just laugh and get yourself up there, even if you've got to do a little bit every day, and just do what you can to take care of you in your square foot of real estate. You can't worry about, look, I'm going to tell you this again. I know my neighbor. I know her pretty well. I can't tell you what she's doing right now, and she's right across the street. So how do you know what's going on halfway around the world? And what can you do? You send love out there. Our job is to get through this and to help others through this who don't know the way out. And we do. And that's the light. So we're going to stay in it. I'm going to see if I can find this, and then we're going to get out of here. Steve, you want to tell me what you got going on this week?
I said I got, let's see, Wednesday, have coffee with Steve. I do a coffee chat. Friday nights, I do.
What kind of coffee you drinking during that coffee chat there, Steve?
That would be Dunkin' Donuts, Dunkin' Coffee, Dunks. And then Friday nights at 6 Eastern, we do current missing person cases. Had a really neat thing happen over there. Not last Friday, Friday before that. Had two girls that were missing from Washington, D.C., and there was somebody in the chat that actually knew them, that had lived in the same building with them, reached out to their aunt, and
Wow.
they've been found safe. So, sometimes planetary alignment, whatever you want to call it, things just work out great. But got a good response to that. Got the radio show Sunday nights from 9 to 11 Eastern, and production videos throughout the week. The blog, everything. Got all kinds of stuff going on. Busy, busy, busy. Love it that way.
I think I about got it. They said it so well, so it's definitely worth the a lot of people are praising Patty Duke in this, and I'm going to tell you something about Patty Duke. That woman in this movie has some hair. Might be going through the worst paranormal experience you've ever seen for a 1980s movie. Her hair, not a hair out of place. She could be knocked across the room by a poltergeist and come right up, shake her head, and everything goes right back where it belongs. It was the most amazing thing in the whole darn movie.
Now, was it Patty or her identical cousin, Kathy?
Do you remember that?
I used to love that show when I was a kid. Yeah, somebody had a career playing the back of her head, and they never had a hair out of place either.
That's true. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to find it, and I only got half of it. But basically, it was saying what I was saying, that, the movie didn't, even the book, as realistic as they tried to be, that couple, it didn't compound everybody's experience on that little edge of that road. And what the man basically concluded as, he said something evil took these people over. There's no way that it could have just been some people mad that was something on the grave. And I think we're too quick to just assume those things. And I think as paranormal investigators, and if you're going to look at that next level of things, you don't just settle for the easy guess on a haunting or a case. And that's something, again, Katie and I were talking about last night. She's been on many. She's done worked with authorities to find missing people and things like that. All those times you're reaching out, and all those stories that Steve is telling, and I've said it 1,000 times, there are multiple people with abilities working with some of the people that will work with them. But here's the deal, I didn't really dig into it very much with her because we were trying to stay up in the light, trying to get each other through. She's going through a lot too with everything she does, and she was working on some heavy cases. So, but like I spoke with her, that, it takes so much out of you when you do it too, if you've ever been on a heavy case. And we know several, we talked about them last night off air, that have gone in to help people and just gotten so sick, it killed them. We know it did. So not only that, but if they've got somebody popping up giving them information, say a ghost, okay, or a spirit coming from the other side to try to help, how do they go to the authorities and say, I know where the body is? And then
they've taken people into custody before because they had too much information and therefore must have been complicit in the crime or involved somehow when they were halfway across the country. And can you imagine trying to talk your way out of that one?
100%. And like I said, I didn't ask Katie what she normally does, but she's at the level at this point where they contact her, hey, but then they have to try to work the evidence around.
Yeah. So they don't want to get into court with a perpetrator in there and say, well, a psychic told us.
Right.
But the police and law enforcement, search and rescue, they do consult those people on a regular basis. They just don't talk much about it. There
you go. And there's so many more behind the scenes that are doing this constantly. And again, I told, I kind of shocked her. Like when we were talking off air, I don't do that to people when I'm, when they're a guest on my show. But I told her, I said, look, the whole reason I started this podcast, was because I got so angry at people not believing, people that have gone through so much hell, like say a satanic ritual survivor or somebody else that has been a victim of some kind of horrible paranormal trauma, and people just, oh, you're lying or you this. Look, we don't need you to believe us. We're just telling you so you don't get, into the same thing. This is a caution, a cautionary tale here.
Yeah, indeed.
If you don't want to listen to it, by all means, move. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I said that at my, I tell people all the time that I work with, I'm like, I'm going to tell you how to get out of it, but you're not going to do it. So you do this, this, and this. And then they don't do it.
Fix it for you, but it's going to hurt.
Yeah. And I say that a lot. Universe will fix stupid, but it's going to hurt, and then they don't, but they don't do it. And then consistently after, several times, what are you asking me for? You're not going to do it. You find out that person's character is just going to be that way, And I was talking to one of the ladies that comes on the show. She actually lives near me. And I said, look, I don't understand these people. I keep giving them life-saving information and they're mad at me for it. And I'm like, and they're mad at me and they're killing themselves because they're not going to do it, And it's just, you have to get to that point. And it's not arrogance. It's not flippant. It's not this. It's just like, I'm over it. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to waste my time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like that. You want to come back and you want to listen. That's the whole reason the goat woman builds her shack on the hill, or the medicine man builds a shack on the hill. It's not because he's trying to be away from everybody. It's by the time you're done climbing that damn hill, you're ready to listen.
Yep.
So there you go. There you go. Steve, I'm going to get on out of here. My love to Nick. I love you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yep, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. That's absolutely necessary. I've only missed one, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, and that's because of a hard drive failure.
Yeah. And how did you have that work through? Did you get something to work?
Yeah, sort of. I've got a workaround. I've got a replacement drive on the way. So.
And how's your beautiful wife doing? She's good?
Doing great. She's resting. She's
sick of having
trips through the
sick of having you underfoot yet?
Oh, not at all. We're happier than we've ever been. We're just peas in a pod here.
That's great. And Mulder's settled in pretty good too. Huh?
Yeah, the only thing, here, he doesn't have a fenced backyard that he can get out in. So the
He
few
walks,
times that
doesn't
we
he,
go
Dad?
out daily for a walk, yeah, it's the highlight of his day. But he sleeps a lot. He's getting old.
Yeah.
He'll be 9 years old. I think I've had him
Now,
7 years, and they thought he was about a year old when I got him. So he's a
yeah,
rescue.
if I may just put in Aunt Cisco's 2 cents here,
Of
being
course.
I'm probably his puppy godmother. Think too that a change in the weather may affect him as well, his little bones and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there is stuff that you can give him
He's
to
got a
help him.
sweater coming from
Right.
Amazon.
But also consider, like, I know he got a new bed, but think too that maybe a heat pad, and just put it. There's ones
Yeah.
that you can get from like
Yeah, he's
PetSmart
camped
that are
out in
real
front of the
safe.
heater. I've got a little space heater here,
Yeah.
and he's camped out in front of that.
But it also helps their
I'm
bones.
sorry, I can't remember who it was. Brenda Chavez, I think. When our wedding registry, they ordered Mulder something. They got him an orthopedic bed and a couple bags of dog treats and stuff. So Mulder
cool.
was the best man at the wedding. So he got some gifts too.
He got some gifts too.
He loves
Just
that
make
little
sure.
orthopedic bed. I'm
Just
envious
make
of it. If it was big enough, we'd all get in it with him.
with him. Just make sure he's got something like a heat pad that actually heats up like like an electric blanket would. Electric blanket's too dangerous for him, but
Yep.
a pad that's got warmth where his bones are laying on it, because it will actually change the air around
Yeah.
arthritis
And
wise.
it's cold here. This is a
That's what I'm
123-year-old
saying.
house that we live in, and it gets chilly.
Just watch him when he gets up. If he starts getting up slower, do that. And then call me,
Yep.
and I've got some puppy stuff or herb stuff he can take that's real
Sounds
cheap.
like a plan. Thanks, Cisco.
That, the mine always used to take less than 3 days, and he wasn't even limping anymore. He was getting old. You know what I mean? They get arthritis too. Things affect them laying on their bones, So listen, everybody, I love you. Thank you so much for being in here tonight. Thank you so much for putting up with my being very selfish with Miss Katie Turner. She will come back. We've got some great stuff coming up. Some really full of light shows. I'm trying to do a lot of those for the holidays, but listen, we got to have the holiday ghost stories in here too. So we'll be plenty of those coming. A little fun stuff on the way out, a little Monday Madness. Steve, I love you. Love to Nick, love to Mulder. And I love each and every one of you. Thank you to
Good night,
all
everybody. Thanks for being here. See you soon.
Like on the way out, please. It does help. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for being such a fantastic chat. And I will tell you again that everybody that I've talked to that's coming up for the holiday that shows that, asked about the chat and how is the energy, that kind of thing. I've always bragged on you guys that I said, you're going to love my chat, and I love you too. Love you.
Good community here.
Peace and love. Be good humans. And listen, don't forget to take care of you too. You're the most important part. Okay. You got to take care of your light to be able to give it out. So don't forget that. Good night, everybody. Good night, Steve. I love you.
Good night.